like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting.
You know it. Today, we're going to unpack a recent tech outage, and it was a big one, really shook things up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. OpenAI's ChatGPT. And get this, a bunch of Meta's platforms went down.
No way. All at the same time.
Yeah. Facebook,
Wow.
WhatsApp,
Crazy.
and Instagram, all around the same time.
Really makes you think, what's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've got this article from the Economic Times. It's a major Indian financial newspaper, gives us the whole rundown.
Okay. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to figure out just how big this outage was,
Gotcha.
what those tech giants did about it,
Yeah.
and try to unravel the mystery of what might caused it all.
The $1 million question, right?
Absolutely. And don't worry, we'll keep it clear and engaging, even if you're not, a tech wizard.
Love that.
Yeah.
Break it down for everyone. So what's really striking, at least to me, about this whole thing is that both OpenAI and Meta are at the top of their game right now. I mean, ChatGPT, it's practically synonymous with AI for a lot of people.
Right. It's everywhere.
To have both of them facing these major disruptions almost simultaneously, it's definitely something to pay attention to.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone hit the off switch on the internet for a while there,
Yeah.
and everybody was just left wondering, what is going on?
The whole world just stopped.
The article gives us some hard numbers, though. They're pretty eye-opening.
Okay, let's hear them.
So ChatGPT was inaccessible for about 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't just the chatbot itself.
Right.
The disruption also hit OpenAI's API.
Okay, API, for those who don't know, that's basically...
Yeah, you can think of it like a digital doorway that lets other programs tap into ChatGPT's abilities.
Exactly.
And even Sora, their text-to-video AI, went offline.
So a whole suite of tools, basically.
Yeah.
All affected.
Pretty much everything.
While Meta's services were down for a shorter time,
Right,
the impact was still huge.
for sure.
Over 22,000 Facebook users and 18,000 WhatsApp users reported problems, at least according to Down Detector.
Yeah, Down Detector.
And those are just the reported numbers.
Yeah.
The real impact could be way bigger.
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of wild to think about just how many people rely on these platforms for communication, work, staying connected.
Everything.
It's a big part of our lives now.
It is. It's huge.
And what's more, this isn't even the first time this has happened. The article mentions that both OpenAI and Meta had a similar massive outage back in 2021, and that one lasted for almost 6 hours.
So this is becoming a trend.
It makes you wonder.
Are
Yeah.
these outages happening more often? Because our systems are getting more complex, or is there something else going on?
It's definitely something to think about, especially as we become more and more reliant on these technologies. I mean, the potential economic impact alone is staggering. Think about how many businesses rely on these platforms for everything. Yeah, from marketing to customer service, it's massive.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
You're right. The economic impact is enormous. I'm curious, what kind of financial losses are we even talking about when these tech giants go offline?
Well, it's hard to put an exact figure on it, but we are potentially talking about billions of dollars in lost revenue and productivity.
Billions.
Think about all the businesses that rely on online advertising,
Sure.
e-commerce transactions,
Right.
even just basic communication.
Yeah.
When those platforms go down, it creates a ripple effect.
Across entire industries.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though. You could almost argue that these outages kind of force us to reevaluate our dependence on these platforms. Maybe they'll push us to come up with more resilient solutions in the long run,
That's a good point. Sort of a wake-up call, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. So how did these companies respond? According to the article, both OpenAI and Meta took to X, formerly Twitter, to acknowledge the outages, keep users in the loop, and assure them they were working on fixing things.
Yeah, that kind of communication is absolutely crucial, especially for tech companies.
Yeah.
They really rely on their users trusting them, right?
Yeah.
Being transparent, giving those timely updates, it can go a long way.
Yeah.
Easing the frustration, the worry that people feel when everything just stops working.
Yeah. No one likes to be left in the dark, right?
Yeah.
Literally or figuratively.
Exactly.
And it's fascinating how each company kind of approached their messaging. So OpenAI, they kept it pretty straightforward, like, we've identified the issue. Whereas Meta, they reassured users they were 99% of the way there in restoring service.
Okay.
But then WhatsApp, their message really stood out. They said, and we're back, happy chatting.
Huh. Almost like they were trying to lighten the mood a little.
Yeah. A little bit of humor, trying to keep things light. Interesting strategy. I mean, a conversational, even slightly humorous tone can make the whole situation feel less, impersonal.
Right, right.
Reassures users that the company gets their frustrations while still, taking the issue seriously.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance. But let's get to the heart of the matter here. What actually caused this digital double whammy?
Right, the million-dollar question. And unfortunately, the article doesn't give us a definitive answer.
Bummer.
Neither OpenAI nor Meta has officially revealed the root cause. OpenAI just stated that they, identified the issue, but they didn't really elaborate.
Oh, we're left hanging.
Yeah, and that lack of transparency can breed a lot of speculation and uncertainty, which isn't ideal in a situation like this.
Right. Okay, so we've got a tech mystery on our hands, but the article did point to a couple of theories that are floating around.
All right, let's hear.
So TechCrunch speculated that OpenAI's integration with Apple in iOS 18.2 might have triggered a massive surge in traffic,
Okay.
which overloaded their servers. Think about it. Millions of iPhones suddenly tapping into ChatGPT's power. That's a lot of processing power.
That's a very plausible scenario. You have to remember, any significant change to a system, especially when you're integrating with a platform as huge as iOS, it can have unintended consequences. Even with, thorough testing and preparation, unforeseen issues can always pop up.
Right. And what's interesting is that these integrations are becoming more and more common. All the AI features built into our phones, operating systems.
Everywhere.
It makes you wonder how much testing really happens before these huge rollouts.
Yeah, good question.
But while OpenAI may have been dealing with this Apple-induced surge, Meta might have had a completely different problem.
Well,
So the article mentions the conversation, which suggested a single point of failure within Meta's infrastructure. Basically, like a critical component that all their services relied on just failed. And when that went down, everything went down.
the domino effect.
Exactly.
That's a common vulnerability in complex systems. You can have all sorts of redundancy failover mechanisms in place, but
Yeah.
if there's that single point of dependence, it becomes the potential weak link.
So one little glitch can bring down a whole empire.
It's true. To understand this better, you can think of it like, a network of roads in a city.
Okay.
If one major bridge collapses, it can disrupt traffic flow across the entire network, even in areas that aren't directly connected to that bridge.
Wow. So server infrastructure is seriously complex.
It is. Maybe we can unpack that concept of a single point of failure a bit more, because I think it's something our listeners might find really relevant to their own digital life.
Yeah, absolutely. That single point of failure idea is worth exploring further. It goes beyond just these big tech outages and can apply to many aspects of our digital lives. We'll dive into that after a quick...
They're quick.
Well, we'll just dive into it. We'll just keep going.
All
No
right.
breaks.
Let's do it.
All right, so that single point of failure.
That single point of failure concept, it's something we can all relate to in our digital lives. Think about it this way. Your internet connection. That's a prime example. If your router goes down, you're suddenly cut off from everything.
Oh, absolutely. Work, streaming, even those smart home devices, right?
Exactly. We become so reliant on these systems that we often overlook those vulnerabilities. Cloud storage is another good example. A lot of people, they store all their important files, photos, even their whole music libraries in the cloud. But what happens if that service has an outage? Or even worse, a security breach?
Oh, that's a scary thought. All those precious memories, important files, suddenly they're just gone. So what can we do to protect ourselves from these single points of failure? Do we need to become like tech experts overnight?
Not at all. There are some simple steps that can make a big difference. For your internet connection, consider having a backup option, like a mobile hotspot. For cloud storage, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Use multiple services or keep local backups on an external hard drive.
Yeah, it's like having a spare tire in your car. You might not need it often, but when you do, you're really glad you have it.
Precisely. And this idea, it goes beyond just technology, Think about your daily routines, your work processes, even your personal relationships. Are there any single points of failure that could disrupt things, cause major problems? Identifying and addressing those vulnerabilities, it can make you more resilient.
In all areas of your way.
Exactly.
That's a really powerful takeaway. And it definitely goes beyond just this specific tech outage. It's about being aware of what we depend on and taking those steps to minimize the risks, whether they're digital or not. But circling back to the outage, we may not have a definite answer on what caused it.
Right.
but we do have some interesting theories and potential implications to consider.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that even the most sophisticated systems, they aren't foolproof.
Yeah.
They're designed and maintained by humans.
Right.
And humans, we make mistakes. As these systems become even more complex and interconnected, the possibility of unexpected problems just grows exponentially.
Yeah, it's like a giant, intricate web, and even a small tug in one corner can send ripples throughout the whole structure. This brings us to a really important question for our listener. Why should they care about this tech outage? Besides, the inconvenience of not being able to access their favorite apps for a few hours.
That's the key point. This incident highlights a broader trend, the growing integration of AI into our lives. We already talked about OpenAI's integration with Apple's iOS. Imagine a future where AI is seamlessly woven into everything.
Okay, yeah.
Our operating systems, our devices, our everyday interactions. We're talking AI-powered assistants, personalized recommendations, self-driving cars. It's all becoming part of the fabric of our lives.
It's already happening. And while this has incredible potential for innovation, convenience, it also raises some critical questions about reliability, resilience. What happens when those AI-powered systems experience outages or malfunctions? It's not just about losing access to a chatbot or a social media platform anymore.
Right, the stakes are much higher now.
Yeah, it could affect critical infrastructure, healthcare systems, financial markets.
Exactly. And that brings us back to those hidden vulnerabilities we discussed earlier. Yeah. As we become more reliant on these complex, interconnected systems, understanding those vulnerabilities, developing strategies to deal with them becomes absolutely essential.
So it's not about living in fear of a tech apocalypse or something.
No.
But it's about being informed, being prepared. It's about recognizing that our digital world, for all its wonders, is built on a foundation that can be shaken.
And it's about having a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
A little critical thinking.
Okay.
Don't just blindly accept the promises of technology. Question those assumptions.
Right.
Consider the potential downsides. Demand transparency from the companies that control these powerful systems.
It's about being an active participant in shaping the future of technology, rather than just a passive consumer. I think that's a great point to emphasize. So, we've uncovered the scale of this recent tech outage. We've explored the potential causes, delved into the broader implications for our increasingly AI-driven world. But let's bring it back to our listener one last time. What can they take away from this deep dive, and what should they be thinking about going forward?
I think one of the most important takeaways is that even the most sophisticated systems, they have weaknesses. And those weaknesses can have a ripple effect far beyond what we might initially imagine. Whether it's a global tech outage or a personal disruption to our digital routines, understanding that concept of a single point of failure and taking steps to build resilience is crucial.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, I want to encourage our listener to take a moment to consider how the increasing integration of AI into their own life might create new vulnerabilities or dependencies. Are there any single points of failure that could disrupt their flow or cause significant problems? What steps can they take to mitigate those risks, ensure their own digital resilience?
Remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand about these systems, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges, the opportunities of the digital age.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. Until next time, keep diving deep. Stay curious.
It's fascinating to consider how this whole outage with OpenAI might connect to their Apple integration. The article mentioned TechCrunch's speculation about that sudden surge in traffic.
Right. Everyone jumping on at the same time.
And if that's the case, it really highlights a challenge specific to AI. Scalability. AI systems, they often require just enormous processing power. And when millions of users are all trying to access them at the same time, it puts a huge strain on the infrastructure.
Yeah, it's like trying to fit, a whole city's worth of traffic onto a single lane road.
Exactly. So how does this idea of scalability play out in the bigger picture of AI integration?
That's the question, isn't it?
As AI becomes more and more deeply embedded into our lives, this issue of scalability is only going to become more critical. Imagine, a future where we're relying on AI for things like traffic management.
Wow, yeah.
Healthcare diagnostics, financial transactions. If those systems are designed to handle massive spikes in demand, well, the consequences of an outage could be far more serious than just a few hours of inconvenience.
Right, it's not just about making sure the AI works, it's about making sure it can work under pressure, when everyone's trying to use it at the same time.
Exactly. And that requires a lot of foresight, planning on the part of the companies that are developing and deploying these systems. It's about investing in robust infrastructure,
Yeah.
anticipating potential bottlenecks, having those backup plans in place.
Yeah.
It's also about transparency.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Users have a right to know how these systems are being built, tested, and maintained.
It's about trust, right? We're essentially putting our faith in these systems to function reliably. We need to be able to hold the companies accountable for their performance. So thinking about our listeners specifically, what are some concrete steps they can take to become more aware of these potential vulnerabilities? Build their own digital resilience. What can they do beyond just backing up their data and having that backup internet connection?
Those are definitely great starting points, but there's more we can do. I would encourage our listener to start paying attention to the AI systems they're already interacting with on a daily basis. What AI-powered features are you using on your phone? What apps rely on AI to provide, personalized recommendations or services? Once you start noticing these systems, take some time to learn about how they work, what data they collect, and what potential vulnerabilities they might have.
That's great advice. It's like the old saying, knowledge is power.
Right.
The more we understand about these systems, the better equipped we'll be to use them safely and responsibly.
Exactly. And as we become more informed users, we can also start demanding more from the companies that develop these technologies. We can ask questions about their security practices, their data privacy policies, and their plans for ensuring reliability and resilience.
It's about becoming active participants in shaping the future of AI, rather than just passive consumers.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We explored the scale of this recent tech outage, dug into some potential causes, and considered the wider implications for our increasingly AI-driven world.
And hopefully our listener has come away from this deep dive with a better understanding of the complexities of these systems, a renewed sense of curiosity about the evolving relationship between technology and our lives.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and engaging. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and be sure to question everything.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till